Key Modern Railways. In-depth railway news.
Hello and welcome to the preview of the June edition. And what a month it's been! Not one, but two fleets in trouble with structural failures. Not one, but two failure modes on the Prime Intercity design. That's the IUP of course, not the HST they replaced. On top of that, we've had the Williams Schnaps report and the proposed Great British Railways. Wouldn't it be interesting to see a track changes version of that from when it was with the Williams report? Still, hard for me to argue against a report which seeks to reduce fragmentation and even mentions uncomfortable seats. Back to the magazine, and who would have thought that a bracket on a train bogie would become the Achilles heel of two train designs within the period of one magazine edition? Many engineers have been through this sort of issue before, which makes it all the more surprising that the industry managed to find some that haven't. Modern Railways have our top man on the case, and sure enough, he's cracked it. Sorry, this really isn't funny. And here's Roger to tell us more. Roger.
Well, hello again and welcome to another preview of what we've got in Modern Railways this month. I just finished writing Informed Sources a couple of weeks ago, and the lead item was a detailed analysis of the problems with yaw damper arms being attached to the bodies of CAF and Hitachi trains. The aluminium was cracking. Not a new problem. I got a lot of photographs together, diagrams explained why you need yaw dampers and why they sometimes go wrong. Anyway, Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, the BBC radio wakes me up with the news that all the Hitachi 800 series trains have been withdrawn. And would I comment? Well, of course I could. And I was from sleep to talking on the BBC in 20 minutes, which was quite an achievement. I was very fluent because I was fully up to speed on this. Then I checked my emails and discovered that the problem was another example of cracking on the Hitachi in the same area. This time it was the jacking pockets, the pockets where the lifting arms on the jacks go to lift the trains. They were showing cracks, and it was serious enough for the all fleet, all 93 of the Great Western Railway trains and the LNER ones, plus the similar designs on the ScotRail 385s to be withdrawn briefly. So it was a race against time, or rather a race against the printing press, waiting for our magazine to be available to get a lot more detail. So this is what I call rolling stock crisis issue. And it covers both as much as I could find out about the jacking pocket, plus the really detailed analysis of the yaw damper cracking, and I hope you find that interesting. There's lots of photographs that were coming in. Tony Miles was taking photographs for me as it happened, so a bit of excitement for once instead of just sitting there writing it and sending it off. Then the second item refers back to last month's column, where you remember I wrote about the southern region of Network Rail putting out a notice requesting expressions of interest in supplying traffic management and similar equipment. This I thought was a bit strange because, of course, as you know, we've been reporting since 2009 the attempts to actually buy a traffic management system, and after that the successful introduction of the Luminate traffic management systems at Liverpool Street and Great Western. Anyway, I asked if I could have some more background detail on this. I had a very interesting discussion with the two managers responsible, and it turns out that they are not looking immediately to buy anything in the short term. What they are doing is looking at how you operate and run the modern railway, how you help staff to actually keep control of things, have an overview of what's happening, how you manage crisis, and so on. And what they want to do is, as they develop this new system, they want to make sure that they don't miss any opportunities through new equipment or ask for the impossible. So that was part there. That was quite an interesting question. Then we come to TimWatch, where last time I said I was thinking, well, the table, to be frank, the table is getting much too big as trains aren't being promoted even though they get older because they aren't meeting high reliability standards. So I asked for your thoughts with some suggestions of my own. We've reduced the ceiling for promotion to 20,000 IMTIN, which isn't a lot, but I wanted to know how do you consider a new train, and when does it become an old train? And readers have been very, very helpful on providing information on that. So we've managed to cull the table quite a bit, and in the next issue, which will be the first of the 2021-22 reporting year, there'll be further reductions, and of course the way of measuring reliability is changing from the famous MTIM we all know to a new standard which includes a lot more causes of delay. So that's Informed Sources for July. I think you'll find it interesting, particularly if you're of a technical bent and you want to know what all this cracking stuff is about. So there's a lot going on in the industry. I've got a lot to do going through the new William Shapps white paper, so I'd better be getting on with that, and thanks for watching. Bye.
Thanks, Roger. Good to see the industry rallying round to provide replacement trains, and even better to see my Electrostar stepping in to replace trains which have cost 2.5 times as much as they did. Fixing these problems is going to take a long time, and what a shame they weren't noticed at the start of lockdown. On the other hand, thank goodness they were noticed when they were. On now to the rest of the magazine, and here is Philip Sherratt to tell us about it. Philip has tested my noise cancelling software before, but he's gone up a level this time. But then, if you ever wanted a demonstration of how much noise pollution comes from road traffic, look no further. Philip.
Hello everyone, thanks Ian, and welcome to our latest preview video. I'm on unfamiliar territory here, but I think it's appropriate because I'm going to talk to you about a suite of features about developments in the north of England. So I'm on a short break here. I'm up in Northumberland, and the line next to me is the Tyne Valley line between Newcastle and Carlisle. So you have to forgive the road noise, but you just see the Class 158 go by. So for features, as I say, we've got a suite about the north of England in the June issue of Modern Railways. We start off with a feature about operations at Northern, reflections on the transition to the operator of last resort, the vision for the future, post-COVID world and so on, and some of the rolling stock changes that are going on. And then we have a feature about the new Merseyrail trains, the Class 777s built by Stadler. I had the pleasure of a trip across to Liverpool to catch up with David Powell, who's the programme director for the Liverpool City region for the rolling stock. It's a really interesting train. It's been a lot of custom design gone into it, and you'll be able to see some of those features. Real good attention to detail there. And then we have some features focusing on cross-Pennine links, which are obviously of particular importance. One is the Trans-Pennine route, the main route between Manchester, Leeds and York, where there are plans for an upgrade. Information about this has been a bit sketchy, but we're gradually getting some detail coming to light, so we've got a feature from that, particularly reflecting on Network Rail's application for enhancements to the Huddersfield to Dewsbury section of that route. And there's also a feature my colleague James Abbott's done about Trans-Pennine freight, and there's been a study about the possibilities of improving freight connections across the north using the Trans-Pennine route. And James has also done an article about the Hope Valley upgrade, so that's the Sheffield to Manchester line, a nice scenic route which is one of my favourites, and there are plans to build a new freight loop, improve capacity at Dore by building a second track, a second platform there. And so we have there's those plans. Funding was quite recently announced for those, so we've spoken to Network Rail to get the full story on that. And then aside from that, we have a few other features. One about the Barking Riverside extension in East London. This is a major new development alongside the River Thames. It's been called Barcelona-on-Thames, apparently that's what it's nicknamed. So extending the London Overground from Barking down to Barking Riverside, it will be served by trains from Gospel Oak. So it's a progress update on that. It's quite a complicated project because it's dealing with lots of other interfaces with the railway and so on, and it's a big looping viaduct which looks really quite impressive. We also have an article about the recent electrification prospectus that was released by the Railway Industry Association, put together by some folks from within the industry. You may remember, some of you may remember that we had a news story presaging that the last time round. Now it was released towards the end of April. Subscribers will find you get a copy of the summary, should be with your copy of the magazine. But in the magazine itself, there is an article from David Shearers, who's the lead author of it, explaining why they decided to produce this prospectus about electrification, making the case for a rolling program of electrification, which we very much hope will be signed off soon. And we also have a feature about the RSSB's work on COVID risk on trains, the model that they've worked out for that. There's lots of interesting news going on. We did go to press before the publication of the Williams Review, so we're busy analysing that, and there'll be lots more on that next month. But there's plenty of news elsewhere in the magazine. Obviously our reporting on the issues with the Hitachi and CAF trains, which Roger will cover in much more detail. And there's some interesting news stories about a potential choice of rolling stock for East West Rail when it opens. And we also have some news about a potential new service between Leeds and Glasgow via the Settle and Carlisle line, which could be really quite interesting. So there's a great deal in the magazine, there's lots going on out there, and I hope you find it all of interest. So from Northumberland on this rather overcast morning, I shall hand back over to Ian.
Thank you, Philip. Now, on to my Pan Up column, which is all about the end of HSTs on East Midlands Railway. Well, it's not just about the end, but I'll look at the bumpy road to HST becoming a national icon. Here I am on one of the last workings. My HST lament is only partly about this trip on the train, with an advance guard of superannuator anoraks. Mostly, it's accounts from people you probably never knew were part of keeping it going. Because that's a great thing about talking with a mask on. I can overdub anything. I never need to go out again. Still, I won't insult you by carrying on it longer. My involvement with HSTs, apart from travelling on them, was limited to A exams at Cardiff Canton overnight. The worst sight you could have in the morning was one still there. It was 5 in, 5 out every night. But I do know a lot of engineers who had lots more hands-on experience than I ever did, and it's their stories I'll relate, which are a lot more interesting than mine. Well, that's quite enough for this month, isn't it? William Shaps will probably dominate next month, unless of course someone is under another train looking and thinking, what's that? Bye for now.
Visit www.keymodernrailways.com for more interesting and essential information about the British Railway Network.